3 years ago, on my 15th wedding anniversary, my life flipped inside out. And when I say insane, I mean darker than a Tim Burton movie, because my wife didn't just betray me, she almost poisoned me. I'm Rowan, 43, and this is a story of how my marriage ended and how I legally tore everything down to the ground. Beth and I were supposed to be celebrating 15 years together. Morton Steakhouse. Private dining room. A $200 bottle of wine chilling on the table. A $2,000 necklace tucked away, ready to surprise her. I had this naive little hope that maybe, just maybe, we could fix what had been breaking between us. Beth looked incredible that night in a red dress that turned heads, but her eyes, they weren't on me. For months, she'd been acting distant. Secretive phone calls. Late nights that didn't add up. Smiles so fake they felt like plastic. I brushed it off as midlife drift. People grow, marriages hit rough patches. But sitting across from her that night, watching her ignore her $60 fillet while she kept glancing at the door, my gut screamed something was off. And here's the thing about me. I run 3 restaurants, working on opening a 4th. You do that long enough, you get a sixth sense about people. You know when someone's lying. You know when a story doesn't fit. That night, Beth's signals were blaring like alarms. I excused myself to the bathroom, trying to shake off the unease. And that's when everything shifted. Our server, Eli, walked in, 22, young but sharp, working his way through community college. He looked nervous, too nervous for a waiter on shift. He hesitated, then said, "Sir, I might lose my job for this, but I need to tell you something." I thought he was about to say Beth left her purse open, or something minor. Instead, he hit me with a bomb. "When you went to the bathroom, I saw your wife pour something into your glass. Crushed pill or powder. I've seen it before, college parties, frat gigs. She stirred it fast and looked around to make sure no one saw." I laughed at first. A full, disbelieving laugh. "You sure about that, kid?" But Eli didn't budge. His face was dead serious. Maybe I'm wrong, but if it were my girlfriend, I'd want to know. That's when my laughter died. My stomach dropped. My mind started flipping through excuses. Maybe sugar, maybe medicine. But Eli's voice cut through. "My sister got roofied last year. I know what it looks like." And suddenly I was staring at myself in the mirror, wondering if the woman I built 15 years with was trying to put me under. I thanked him, walked back to the table in a daze. Beth was scrolling through her phone, smiling at something that had nothing to do with me. She looked up, saw me, and put on that fake little smile. "You okay? You look pale." "Just tired," I muttered. "Long week at the restaurants." And there it was, my glass, sitting right where I'd left it. What had once tasted fine now looked like a loaded gun. "You know what?" I said casually, forcing a grin. "I think I'll switch to water. This wine's giving me a headache." Beth's eyes sharpened. Her tone got an edge. "Really? You picked that bottle. It's expensive." She pushed. "Don't waste it. You can have mine too." That's when I knew. She wasn't just trying to get me drunk. She was desperate for me to drink from that glass. I lifted it to my lips, faked a sip, never letting the liquid touch my mouth. She watched me, her whole body easing when I set the glass down. And Eli, God bless him, was hovering nearby with a perfect line of sight. The private room cameras, they caught everything. Every movement, every stare, every fake smile. My wife of 15 years had just tried to drug me. And the only thought in my head was, what comes next? Beth excused herself to the ladies' room, chirping, "Order dessert if you want. Honey, I'll be right back." The second she was gone, my hands moved fast. I swapped our glasses, set them back like nothing had changed, every detail exact. My heart was pounding so loud I thought it might shake the walls. That was the moment the marriage ended for me. Not when she lied. Not when she checked out months ago. But right there, staring at 2 glasses of wine, one poisoned, one clean, realizing my wife wanted me gone. And I knew one thing with crystal clarity. She wasn't going to get away with it. My chest felt like it was going to burst. If Eli had been wrong, nothing would happen. But if he was right, then I was about to find out just how far down the rabbit hole my marriage had fallen. While Beth was gone, my mind started racing through possibilities. If she was trying to drug me, there had to be an endgame. Robbery? No, she already had access to our accounts. Murder? Maybe. We had life insurance, but not enough to justify a funeral plan. Unless there was money I didn't know about. Running 3 restaurants meant serious cash flow, nearly $800,000 a year. Add the investment account she knew about, and sure, it was a lot, but not the kind of money you flee the country with. Unless someone was skimming more than I realized. She came back all smiles, that megawatt grin that was starting to look faker every time I saw it. "Did you order dessert?" she asked sweetly. "I was waiting for you," I said. Her eyes lit up. "What about the chocolate cake?" "Perfect, right? You know I love chocolate." I watched her pick up the glass that had been mine. She took one long sip, then another, and as if nothing in the world was wrong, she started talking about her sister's wedding, about vacations, about how we should go somewhere tropical. "Maybe Central America," she said casually, scrolling on her phone. "I read online it's easy to disappear down there." Who researches extradition laws as vacation prep? The kind of person planning to need them. 20 minutes later, mid-sentence about a client's kitchen renovation, she stopped, blinked again. Her words started to slur. "I feel strange," she mumbled. "Really dizzy." I leaned forward, masking every ounce of fury under the mask of concerned husband. "Strange how?" "I only had a glass and a half," she whispered. But Beth could usually outdrink most people and still be sharp. This wasn't tipsy. This was chemical. Her head tilted sideways, and I caught her before she crashed face first into the breadbasket. "Beth, can you hear me?" She mumbled something incoherent, her eyes half-closed, vacant. A couple at the next table glanced over, worried. I forced a laugh. "She's fine. Just can't handle her drink tonight." Inside, I knew better. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. By the time the paramedics arrived, I was the picture of the worried husband. On the outside, calm and collected. On the inside, one question kept pounding through my skull. Why would my wife want to drug me? They checked her vitals, asked about medications, allergies. "Any idea what she might have taken?" the lead medic asked. "Nothing that I know of," I said, shaking my head. "We were just having dinner." They strapped her onto a stretcher and wheeled her out. I followed in my car, headlights carving through the night as my mind tried to process the impossible. At the hospital, the first test came back vague. 2 days later, the full results landed. A heavy sedative, benzo class. Not the kind of thing you accidentally ingest. The doctor's eyes met mine. "Any idea how this happened?" I almost laughed. Oh, I had ideas. But all I said was, "No clue. We were just celebrating our anniversary." He nodded, professional but skeptical. "This isn't something that slips into your system by accident. It had to be administered deliberately." Security flagged a report. Police were notified. But without the glass preserved, without Eli stepping forward officially, it went nowhere. Dead case. Beth was out for 6 hours. When she finally woke up, groggy and confused, she claimed she couldn't remember a thing past arriving at the restaurant. "I don't understand," she said weakly. "I barely had anything. How did this happen?" "The doctor thinks someone might have tampered with your drink," I offered carefully. Her eyes went wide. "Someone drugged me? Who would do such a thing?" "I don't know. Honey," I said, my voice calm. "But I'm going to find out." And for the first time that night, I meant every single word. The next day, I played nurse. Soup, tea, endless patience. She was weak, nauseous, milking the role of victim like she'd been born for it. She floated theories. Maybe it was a businessman at the bar, she said, except there hadn't been any businessman. I knew, because I'd been watching. Could be, I agreed, or maybe someone tampered with the bottle before service. She shuddered, playing it up. That's terrifying. Her performance was good, too good. If I didn't already know the truth, I might have bought it. But I knew, and while she napped, I started mapping my next move. Because the restaurant business taught me something years ago. When money's on the line and people start acting strange, You don't wait. You investigate. Quietly. Quickly. 2 days later, Beth announced she was ready to get back to work. She ran an interior design business, flexible hours, high-end clients, plenty of cover for extracurriculars. I stayed home that day, telling my partner Chase I needed time to deal with Beth's medical scare. Chase, my best friend since college, my best man, the guy I trusted like a brother, the man I'd built 3 restaurants with, side by side. I trusted him completely, and that, as I'd soon find out, was the biggest mistake of my life. Lately, Chase had been talking like a man on a deadline. Push hard, expand fast, 5 new locations in 2 years. So when I started poking around the house that afternoon, it was more curiosity than paranoia. What I found turned curiosity into a cold, clinical kind of rage. Beth's home office was a shrine to order, color-coded files, alphabetized folders, everything in its place, except for the one hidden appointment book tucked behind her calendar. Little entries, 6 months of them, 2 o'clock, twice a week. Chapter Chase. My partner, my best friend. Meetings with my wife, every week, hiding in plain sight. I ripped through drawers like a man with a search warrant in his hands and found worse. Under a velvet tray in her jewelry box, a tiny plastic bag of white powder and a note with dosage and timing, 15 to 20 minutes onset, 4 to 6 hour duration. The handwriting wasn't hers. It was Chase's. My hand shook as I photographed it. This was not a mistake. It was a syllabus, a plan. On her laptop, locked behind the anniversary date password in a folder labeled Vacation Research, were months of coded emails that read like merger documents of Betrayal. Close deal Saturday. Transfer accounts. Confirm travel. Chase's messages talk about preparing documentation and ensuring a clean transition. Beth's replies discuss timing and the transfer window. One message, blunt and clinical, mentioned making sure I was completely out of commission during the handoff. Then the money showed up. Small withdrawals at first, below alarm thresholds, dribbling out of our joint savings into accounts I'd never seen. 60, 70, then $75,000 gone over 6 months. Chase was doing his part too, vendor payments to shell companies that existed only on paper, siphoning business funds until the firm bled. There were earnest money deposits on beachfront homes in Costa Rica, research on countries with soft extradition, notes about properties already under option. This wasn't a fantasy. It was a plan with geotags and receipts. The kicker was the policy paperwork, beneficiary changes I'd signed without thinking, a boosted life insurance cap submitted during open enrollment 4 months prior. It fit the pattern like a final, cynical stitch. The people who'd shared my holidays, my ideas, my late-night plans had been quietly drafting my erasure. I sat in my office with the evidence spread out like a crime scene and felt a strange, surgical clarity. This wasn't emotional, it was forensic. I hired Nina Park, a PI and ex-detective who eats financial fraud for breakfast. She took the case and didn't blink at the scale. Surveillance, forensics, bank tracing, $18,000 worth of ruthless thoroughness. I called Paul Kearney, our corporate lawyer, who choked on his coffee when I told him the players. He started divorce papers and asset protection moves the same afternoon, whispering, "Be careful. If they smell exposure, they'll sprint." My brother Eric, the county fraud investigator, went full cop when I showed him the receipts. "Attempted poisoning, embezzlement, conspiracy," he muttered. But we weren't rushing to hand this to the DA. Eric understood the psychology. Let them finish their play. Let them commit. Then we'd have video, transactions, and an airtight story for the prosecutor. He arranged state-level help so this would be handled cleanly, and I sat back, feeling the slow satisfaction of a man who'd finally decided to stop being surprised. Detective Ray Castellanos was my ace in the hole. Steady, sharp, the kind of man who'd seen financial crime dress in every disguise. But even he wasn't prepared for what Nina uncovered next. Beth and Chase weren't just sneaking off to hotel rooms. They built an escape plan worthy of an international thriller. $175,000 drained from our business accounts into crypto wallets. Beth liquidating her retirement like it was pocket change. Fake IDs printed. A Costa Rican rental tucked behind shell corporations. Flight reservations already locked in. This wasn't a lover's fling. It was a full-blown exit strategy. And then the truth about Chase hit like a sucker punch. He wasn't just Chase Hoffman, my partner of 8 years. His real name was Jacob Henning, a convicted fraudster who'd already served time for embezzlement in Nevada. The man I'd trusted with my company had been laying groundwork for betrayal long before he shook my hand. So I started fighting back the only way I could, quietly, moving what money I could into accounts Beth couldn't touch, filing paperwork with my lawyer to freeze business assets on a moment's notice. I wired up my home with hidden cameras in the kitchen and living room, tucked a recorder in my pocket, every conversation suddenly a potential confession. And Beth, Beth, she just kept playing her part, asking about my stress, suggesting we do something romantic. "Maybe Morton's again," she said one night, smiling through the lie. "Show them we're not intimidated." Perfect. I said yes, and watched her eyes sparkle in a way I finally understood. Not love, but anticipation. She thought Saturday was going to be her victory lap. What she didn't know was that Castellanos, Eli the waiter, and an entire team were already in position. I even heard her confirm it over the phone, Chase muttering that Eli must have spoiled their first attempt, that they couldn't back out now, not with deposits made and people in Nevada breathing down his neck. They were desperate, cornered, pushing harder than ever. By Friday, the trap was set. Saturday came. Beth dressed like she was walking a red carpet, every detail perfect. I told her she looked stunning, because she did, but the words tasted bitter. In the car, she buzzed with energy, glued to her phone, probably whispering updates to Chase. Morton's was exactly as it had been 3 weeks earlier, but now it was a stage, and I knew my role. Eli greeted us with that small nod only I could read. "We're ready." Dinner unfolded like a script. She laughed too easily, asked about my dreams, retirement, the future we'd never have. Then she leaned in, voice low, almost wistful. "Do you ever think about just disappearing somewhere tropical? Starting over?" "Sometimes," I said, playing my part. "Costa Rica seems nice," she whispered. The audacity stole my breath. She was spelling out their escape plan while trying to lace my drink. "Casual browsing," she claimed. "A girl can dream, right?" But I'd already seen the deeds, the passports, the deposits. When she excused herself for the restroom, I gave Eli the signal. The manager, trained by Castellanos, moved into place. Every camera was rolling. Every witness was watching. And somewhere across town, Chase was refreshing his browser, waiting for the message that I'd gone down. He thought their plan was flawless. What he didn't know was that tonight, they weren't springing a trap. They were walking into mine. They thought they had everything mapped out, every detail rehearsed. But what they never counted on was me being 2 steps ahead. When Beth came back from the restroom, her smile was almost smug, but her eyes kept flicking to my glass like a cat waiting for the trap to spring. "You're not drinking much tonight," she said, too casually. I nodded, played along, taking it slow after last time. I told her. She agreed, very wise. Then I excused myself, not to the restroom, but to a spot where I could see everything through the glass partition. And that's when it happened. In less than a minute, Beth looked around, reached into her purse, and pulled out a tiny packet. She poured the powder into my drink, stirred with her finger like she'd practiced it 100 times, then wiped her hand on the napkin as if nothing happened. I waited, watched, and when I finally returned, she was glowing with satisfaction, texting under the table, probably letting Chase know the job was done. That's when I switched the glasses. My pulse was hammering, but she never noticed. "This drink is stronger than I thought," I said, setting mine down. "Think I'll switch to water." For a split second, panic flickered across her face. She forced a laugh, urging me to finish it. This bottle was expensive. But I held my ground, and with no way out, she lifted the glass herself, took a sip, then another. 20 minutes later, the performance cracked. Her eyes glazed, her words stumbled. "Rowan, I don't feel right. This is just like last time." I pulled out my phone, not for 911, but for Detective Castellanos. The restaurant staff moved like clockwork. Both glasses sealed, documented, photographed, stored. Beth barely coherent as paramedics wheeled her out. I leaned down, looked at the woman I'd once trusted with everything, and whispered, "Sweet dreams. Honey, when you wake up, you'll have a lot to explain." Meanwhile, across town, Chase was sitting in his apartment, refreshing banking sites, waiting for the message that I'd collapsed. Instead, he got a knock at the door from detectives holding a warrant. They found him with $25,000 in cash, fake passports, laptops still open to transfer screens. The man thought he was about to win. What he didn't realize was the game had ended the second I stopped playing by their rules. Of course, Chase didn't roll over. He made bail, hired a high-profile lawyer, and started fighting dirty. IRS audits, surprise inspections, stories planted in the press. He wanted to bleed me dry while painting himself as the innocent partner framed by a paranoid husband. Beth, meanwhile, unraveled in jail, swinging from sobbing apologies to screaming threats until the system declared her unfit for trial. But I had something stronger than their lies, the truth caught on hours of recordings. Footage of Beth and Chase planning my downfall like they were scheduling a dinner party. And when the prosecution played those tapes in court, you could see the color drain from the defense's face. Their perfect crime had collapsed, not with a bang, but with the undeniable sound of their own voices. The recordings were damning, clear voices mapping out every step, every detail of the plan. The video from my home showed movement without sound, the hidden camera staying just within the law. The audio, that was from conversations I was part of, admissible, undeniable. Together, it told the story of betrayal in high definition. That's when Chase went scorched earth. If he couldn't prove innocence, he'd torch the whole world instead. He called employees, told them I was shutting down. He whispered to suppliers, claimed we were bankrupt. He even rang up Beth's parents, spinning lies about me plotting a divorce and leaving their daughter penniless. The fallout was immediate. Servers quit, suppliers demanded cash, and customers turned away. It was chaos. But here's the thing about trying to destroy a man who's already survived being poisoned. You only end up showing the world who you really are. And Chase showed everyone. The trial became theater. Beth pointed the finger at Chase, claiming he manipulated her. Chase fired back, painting Beth as a mastermind, a femme fatale who seduced him into treachery. The jury didn't even need the prosecution. The two of them shredded their own credibility. Beth took the stand first, orange jumpsuit, eyes wild. She swore she was just trying to protect herself, that I was dangerous, that Chase showed her proof of crimes I never committed. The prosecutor calmly revealed those documents were laughably fake, Chase's Photoshop skills at work. Still, she clung to the story, convinced drugging me was self-defense against a phantom abuser. Then came Chase. He threw Beth under the bus so hard you could feel the wheels. He testified that she came to him with a plan, insurance papers in hand, already rehearsing her husband's demise. The prosecutor played recordings of him plotting alternatives if their first method failed. He stammered, claiming he was only trying to steer her away from violence. The jury watched like it was a slow-motion car crash. 3 weeks, 6 hours of deliberation. The charges: attempted murder, conspiracy, fraud, laundering. Right before the verdict, they both folded, taking plea deals. Beth, 8 years. Chase, 12. Different sentences. Same fate. Lives in ruins. But that was only the criminal side. Civil court was my battlefield. I drained their accounts, seized assets, dragged their names through every lawsuit I could. Beth's parents mortgaged their home for her defense. Chase's ex lost her savings in restitution. Their families crumbled under the weight of their choices. Their reputations? Gone. Neither would ever work in their industries again. And me? I expanded. 4 restaurants now, revenue soaring. Eli, my right-hand man, finished his degree, thriving. My home isn't haunted anymore. It's a condo overlooking the harbor, quiet, peaceful. Beth writes letters from prison now, rambling about bias and conspiracies, dreaming of a book deal. Chase, sick and broken, called me from prison begging for help. Said we were brothers. Said Beth ruined everything. I let him talk, let him plead. And when he was done, yeah, rot in hell. I hung up. He tried again. I never picked up. Beth will face parole someday. Chase probably won't make it that far. And me? I don't need revenge. Watching them destroy themselves was enough. Sometimes the sharpest justice is just letting the fire they lit consume them whole. If you're hooked on this story, YouTube's got this new hype button. Go ahead and hit it. You'll want to stick around for what comes next.